A Quiet Place Part 1 has taught us that kids in this world are deadly and that giving birth to a newborn baby is a bad idea. But in this part, the kids go on a redemption journey and show us that they, besides screwing up things, have the potential to save the world as well. In the first 10 minutes of this movie, we hear a little bit about the backstory and what happened before and how the monsters came. Turns out, they came on a giant meteoroid, which doesn't make the situation better, but it does kind of make it cooler. Now we start out where the first movie has left off. Lee, the father, has been killed saving his kids, leaves us only 3 remaining characters and a baby. They decide that they can no longer stay there and leave. I try to empathize with the characters in most of my videos, but seeing them carrying around a baby in a mini casket on an oxygen tank triggers the nonsense antenna in me. This world is not Death Stranding, therefore we don't need a newborn baby. In fact, this screaming little human is nothing but a burden in this world. Would I leave it behind? Well, I kind of want to, but perhaps it would be better to use it as a decoy first. But anyway, just before they arrive at their destination, this happens. Great, not only are we stuck in a world full of monsters with perfect hearing, but also humans that set traps for other humans. Thank you. But fortunately, our main girl has found a way to combat these monsters, right? Her hearing device, which by the way is a cochlear implant, we will get to that in a bit, emits a high frequency that they don't seem to like very much. Using this, it is possible to stop any of the monsters and even cause their outer shell to open up. So basically this method can be used to stop them, break through their barrier and finally shoot them down with a clean headshot. I can easily envision a new normal where every person walks around with a high frequency device that shields off any of these monsters. Combine this with holstering a double barrel shotgun and we could almost go back to where things were. Or in a more advanced scenario, having villages and towns be built with high frequency towers around it, so that none of these beings could enter human territory. But for that, we need to figure out which frequencies are helpful, and we will get to that. Our characters are rescued by Emmet, who was a former friend of the family but has become quite irritated and hostile towards others. Even though he rescued them, he quickly points out that he wants them gone by the next day. Sure thing, my guy, no problem, we will find a better place, especially after your trap has screwed my son's leg up for life. If I were that woman, I would assassinate this guy during nighttime and make this my new HQ. However, in the following scenes, after Marcus has received first aid for his leg injury, he suddenly receives a radio signal through the headphones. Now, this isn't possible without having other people tuning in from a local radio station, right? And that is what they conclude as well, basically a ray of hope. Up until now, they have believed that there are no people left, or if there were, it's mostly survival tribes that are just as dangerous as these monsters. But even though the signal comes in, Emmet shows no signs of hope. Basically, he suffers from something that's called defeatism. If you happen to be with such people, you must have a very strong character, because you need to constantly bear their negativity, and if you can't do that, then you probably better stay away. That is, unless you have the gift to inspire people and change their hearts. Like Reagan, the little girl in this movie. She finds out that the song blasting through the radio, called Beyond the Sea by the way, is a code, or more specifically, a location where hope can be found. Not just that, but she's also able to locate that radio station from where the signal came in. It's located on a nearby island. Surprise, surprise. Pack your swimsuit, boys and girls. We are going on a trip. What Reagan understands here, though, is that this message is the only option they have. And that is what it really is, isn't it? Food is scarce and gathering new items becomes increasingly difficult. And hunting for animals is way too loud using snipers and guns. However, I do think with a bow and arrow it would be possible. But as of now, we haven't seen anyone use one. But if humans thousands of years ago could craft bows and arrows, then we can assume we can do that too, no? With this additional gear, not only can we increasingly hunt for small animals like pigeons, but we could also silently distract the monsters by diverting their attention to somewhere further away from us. They aren't able to pick what they want to hear, right? I mean, you can't do this neither. Whatever sounds next or is louder than the sound before is what they will focus on. Remember this. In the first part, for example, they used fireworks set up far away for emergency situations, and that was a superb idea, and can be conceptualized differently with different tools. Because Reagan knew that her mother wouldn't let her go, she sneaked out and now tries to find the island on her own. While I admire her courage, I usually don't recommend splitting away from the group, but in this scenario, the smaller the group, the less noise we make. So, thumbs up. However, you need an insane amount of courage to go about that, especially since she's deaf, right? She can't hear much, meaning how would she know when she makes a sound? But perhaps exactly this disadvantage is what gives her the courage to venture out. Mostly people become fearful when they have more information available and then interpret this information in a negative way. And since she's lacking this information, sound, there is no way to overthink that stuff. So as she has left, her mother back home begs Emmet to bring her back. Funny how she doesn't do it herself, but I guess men are still appreciated in this world. Reagan arrives at an abandoned train and instead walking around it, of course, she enters it. Because rusty and broken trains are very safe and extremely quiet when we walk through them. It doesn't take a genius to figure out what's coming next. Reagan screws up, we get an epic close-up of the praying monster behind her and she gets almost killed before Emmet saves her. In a touching moment shortly after, Emmet tells Reagan that he will bring her home. She replies, implying that there is nothing to go back to. And she's right, apart of course from her mother and brother. Is life worth living being in constant fear of death? Probably not. If a place exists where these monsters can't get you, then in my opinion it is worth risking your life to get there. What do you think? Would you risk your life to get to a safe zone, or would you continue to live underground and stay low-key? The next day, Reagan and Emmet continue their journey to the pier. I think this is all beautiful and stuff, but maybe they should have gone back, waited for her Reagan's brother to be cured and then get to the island together, maybe? I agree that being a smaller group enhances the chance to go unnoticed, but it is also true that now we do have an effective way to fight these monsters. At the same time, Evelyn, the mother, leaves the safe house as well, leaving Reagan's brother back alone. She's leaving the safe house to find extra oxygen for the baby and medicine to prevent her son's injury from becoming a serious issue, because we don't need an extra screaming child, right? Now that she leaves for these reasons makes absolute sense, but her son with his injured leg and extreme anxiety shouldn't leave the safe house no matter what. But that is exactly what he does. Why? Why would you roam around outside after dark with an injured leg? There is no reason for him to do that apart from being bored, perhaps. Instead of leaving your safe house though and endanger pretty much everyone in your vicinity, how about turning the radio on and vibe to your candlelight for the time being? Jesus. So while the boy commits a fatal mistake, we cut back to Reagan and Emmet. The next scenes are interesting because they will let us know on how we can beat every single one of these monsters for good. Both characters arrive at the pier and hope to find a boat to get over to the island, but before they can get onto a boat, they see a little girl playing all huddled up in the middle of the pier. Now I don't know about y'all, but this isn't something normal, even post-apocalypse. I don't think you should get near her. Before I gave her a chance to attack me, I would run up, tackle her with a stretched leg, and then put her into the sea. That's not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. But Emmet storms over like a father finding his lost daughter and... Look at me. Well, we know where this ends. Wasn't he the guy who warned us before about the crazy people out here, huh? Well, eventually they are attacked by those hobos and Emmet is tied up with a belt full of noisy items and Reagan is taken with them, at least almost. Here's what happens. What Emmet decides to do is something that most people in this situation would do. Make a lot of noise. Because by doing that, he alerts all monsters nearby who storm into the area like crazy people on Black Friday. Reagan jumps into the water and Emmet does so too. And here is the big revelation. The monsters can't swim. And it makes total sense by looking at their bony structure. Anyway, the people over on the island seem to have figured that out early on. And that is why the signal they have sent was the song Beyond the Sea. Makes kind of sense, doesn't it? If all that it takes to kill those monsters is deep water, then there is an easy way to beat them. Let me explain. So, their perfect hearing means two things. First, they are attracted to the loudest thing, and second, it implies that they are blind. So if we had multiple sound sources built at the pier or really anywhere where deep water starts, they with their incredible speed would just rush in and crash into the depths of the ocean or sea. Now if we did this, then we could play back these sounds for as long as we wish, or as long as it takes for the last alien to crash into the water. At the same time, we could establish a safe route between those two sound sources and get onto the sea without paying much attention on how loud we are, because the signals we send from the towers would override the sounds that we make. With the same method, by the way, we could also create artificial white noise routes connecting villages and towns. Now, of course, it isn't literal white noise, but follows a similar principle. So what I'm talking about are basically zones in which the sent out signals from static towers override human noise in a given field. And if we are very clever, we may even find frequencies that are super loud to the monsters but barely audible to humans, which usually stand outside of 20 Hz to 20 kHz. This would add an extra comfort for living in these zones. But this method would only come into play if we couldn't kill off monsters and had to live alongside with them. So having Reagan and Emmet finally arrive at their destination, we can finally lay eyes on how Marcus screws things up. Thanks, buddy. Thank you very much. That was absolutely necessary. And at the same time, his mother is almost back and of course is now endangered as well. If he could have just stayed put, this could have easily been avoided. I don't get why characters act so stupidly sometimes, but then I remember I'm watching a movie. Anyway, Marcus hides in this giant soundproof oven or whatever the heck that is, but the bad thing is he forgot to use the white cloth to prevent the door from locking him in, trapping himself and the baby, of course. After just a few minutes, he's already starting to slowly suffocate, but in this relatively big enclosed space, he could easily survive for a few hours before he would actually suffocate. We made the calculations in our video on how to beat being buried alive. Evelyn comes for help because she is a badass woman. I love her. The way she beats this attack is pretty amazing. Plus, we also learn another interesting fact about these aliens. So what she does is she draws the attention to her, then shoots a bullet neatly on a coated surface with fuel and covers the alien in flames. It doesn't seem to work though, which implies that they could be indestructible. Her plan, however, wasn't a fire attack in the first place, but to trigger the sprinkler system above. Water still seems to be the most reliable tactic in order to distract them. But if I were her, I would have thrown a big rock into a distant corner and only then vanish underground. In any way though, she's able to save Marcus and her baby in time. Meanwhile, Reagan and Emmet arrive on the island. They don't really know what to expect. Being careful as they are, they slowly walk into the island only to find cheerful people having a nice barbecue with a big bonfire. I want you to imagine for a second the look Dr. Neville in I Am Legend would have made if he suddenly found a bunch of people having a blast telling him they have long found a vaccine. I guess the look that you would get would be something like this one right here. If you needed what the moment today, I guess this was it. Now they socialize with the people and find out how those people got onto the island. Apparently, there were multiple ships setting out for sail shortly after the aliens have landed. But of course, panic started, which led the monsters to kill off pretty much everyone at the pier. The lucky few that survived made it onto this island. Now you must be pretty thankful to be in the shoes of these people, right? It would be a shame if a monster somehow made it over. Having now broken out, it starts to wreak havoc here as well. Now I'm happy they have sent out signals so that our characters had the chance to be rescued, but the security measures for coming to this island, they suck. The whole place is in chaos, okay? People running everywhere. At the same time, Emmet, Reagan and their new friend jump into the car and try to get to the local radio station, luring away the alien. A stressful chase breaks out. Their goal is to use the tools at the station to immobilize the creature with loud noise, of course. But just when they arrive, our new friend here commits a fatal mistake that only beginners would do. He turns his back to the monster and gets swished away. Now at the same time, Evelyn and Marcus back at the hideout also get into a dangerous situation when they get noticed by one of the aliens. They're just barely able to take refuge inside the oven but get attacked vigorously and are about to get killed. On the island though, Reagan slowly makes it into the studio while Emmet tries to shield off the monster. Even though Reagan takes her time, she eventually grabs the mic, puts her cochlear implant on it and creates a shrieking feedback noise that blocks off the monster. At the same time, she turns on the radio on air and streams the sounds to any device that is tuned in. And that is when Marcus, who by the way really seems to love wearing headphones, figures out that Reagan is alive and that the signal that was sent is a perfectly timed blessing. And then, as I have told you at the beginning of this video, both kids rise up, walk pretty f***ing awesome to their respective opponent, and kill them off as if they have never done anything else. How about that? Empowering boys and girls. Gotta love it. This was a pretty great sequel, although the first one has still the edge for me. What do you think? Let me know any of your thoughts and binge another one. How about that? Peace.